So my Heat went out so sad, lads. We went out so sad against the Boston Celtics last night. Lads, we were down 30, like 2 minutes into the second quarter. Before we get on to the main part of the video, if you guys are new to the channel, subscribe to the channel, 1,000 subscribers as soon as possible just to help monetization. But anyway, now let's get on to the video. But lads, this was a game where I turned it off early. I'm not gonna lie, I turned it off. Like, I was watching Boston score every single time they touched the ball, pretty much. They scored 40 in the first quarter on us. 40! Man, I knew we weren't going to win the series. I even said that after we made it 1-0. I didn't think we were going to roll over for them. And Boston, no Porzingis even. They have no depth. We just went out so sadly. As a Miami Heat fan, that's not how you want to do it. Oh, Jimmy, why did you have to poke the bear? Why did you have to post a meme about Jaylen Brown? We needed one of the best shooting performances in the playoff history to not get swept by Boston. That being said, Miami Heat, player for player, without Aqua Jr., might have been the worst playoff team in recent memory. Obviously, if you go back to like 2018 prior, there were definitely bad teams. Some of those Pistons teams with Andre Drummond that made the playoffs sucked. That Orlando Magic team that took a game off the Toronto Raptors in 2019 absolutely sucked. So like, there are bad teams that have made the playoffs, but this Heat team is right up there. As good as Bam is, he is a defensive player more than anything. And then Wonder Boy or Boy Wonder, Tyler Hero, whatever that nickname is. I don't think it's a safe thing. I don't think it's fair to call him Boy Wonder anymore after this series, because that was pathetic. At times, you were unbelievable in game 2. At times, a pathetic series. And the problem is Miami, like the only chance they had, I said it in a video at the very start, the only chance Miami had was to zone up and hope that the Boston Celtics lost 4 games. There were no chance they were able to take it to Boston and beat them 4 times. But you never know. Teams sometimes can just shoot themselves in the foot and lose 4 games in a row themselves. But obviously the tactic didn't work, and Miami got absolutely torched, lads. We got absolutely torched. Like, I don't know what way we go into next season. I don't think trading everything for Dame would have helped either. Like, hoping Jovic becomes a near all-star player, which could happen. Who are we going to find in the, like, who are we going to find that suddenly plays like an all-star? Who's going to be the Jaime Jaquez Jr. of this draft? Who's going to be that? I don't know. But if there's anyone I trust, it's Pat Riley and Eric Spoelstra. I trust those guys. Like, Spoelstra is going to be the next pop. He's already been there for, what? He's not that far off 20 years. Jesus, I'm old. I'm getting very old. But he's going to be a 30-year head coach for the Miami Heat. Don't get rid of Spo anytime soon. And I know, obviously, Miami probably have no plans of doing that. They definitely have no plans of doing that. But Spo and Pat Riley are going to figure something out. The problem is that Jimmy's getting older. Jimmy's getting more injury prone. And none of their other guys can carry an offense. If there's any sort of trades that can be made for something that can carry an offense, I don't know if there is. Like, do they bite the bullet and try to get Bradley Beal? I don't think so. Because he might go there from Phoenix. He might waive the no trade clause from Miami. I'm not sure what team he could go to. Like what trades that Miami could make that even have a chance. Honestly. But if I'm Boston, I'm a little bit worried. Jason Tatum had a awful playoff series. And I'm going to talk more about that once we find out who they're facing in the next round. Once we find out the rounds, I'm going to be doing previews for every single series and what my prediction is going to be. However, I think in general that Boston's best player was Derek White for this series. And that's just how deep their team is, that any of their 5 on any given day can be the best player. But I do think that if Tatum continues on the bad form, he doesn't have to. I don't think Tatum has to play well for him to make the NBA Finals. But for them to beat whoever comes out of the West, Tatum has got to be Jason Tatum. And he hasn't been this playoffs. And a lot of times when it really mattered, unless other teams were like imploding like Philly did last year, he tends to kind of shrink in the massive moments. He's good in like relatively big moments. The massive moments, he tends to shrink a bit. But they need Tatum to be Tatum. Jaylen Brown again, was fine in the series. But it's hard to really judge by that series because other than game 2, every game was a blowout early. They blew teams out early, and you don't necessarily judge a player based on how they play in blowouts. There are some guys that kind of front run. There are other guys that when they have won the game don't really seem to care as much. It's not the end of the world with that being the case. But yeah, either way, as good as the Celtics are, like I said, the Celtics were unfair. Even when Miami won, I thought maybe Miami's role players could have stepped up and we could have brought it to 6. I think 6 would have been a good series, put us in good spot for next year. But I do think, even though it was 5 games, it was one of the most one-sided gentleman sweeps I've ever seen. 4 blowouts, 1 blowout one way for the Heat, but 3 absolute blowouts. And it wasn't even like they were like close games and the Celtics pulled away. They were 30, 40 point games nearly. Like, as far as like, they could have been 30, 40 point games. Last night could have been a 50 point game. The Heat went out so sad, which obviously is very disappointing as a Miami Heat fan.